If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that one of my goals is to keep vintage test equipment going, equipment like the Fluke 9010a in-circuit test emulator. And to that end, I've been reproducing boards like this. This is actually an original, but I've been reproducing this type of pod board, and I supply bare boards so that you can make up your own pods. Now, obviously this is quite ancient, it's probably 30 years or more old, and one of the problems you always come across when you try to reproduce older equipment is the supply of the components. There's no point in me making boards if you just can't get the parts to put onto them. That's not really going to help. So as part of the process, if there are parts on the original design that are no longer available, then I will endeavour to find an alternative that can be obtained. Now in this case, with this particular pod, the connector was a candidate. They're no longer available, and also the voltage detection circuits is no longer available, so I replaced that with a design using parts that you can actually get hold of. But of course the main issue with these pods are these protection modules. They were designed and made specifically for Fluke for these pods, and not made for any other purpose. They're no longer made at all, and therefore they're pretty much impossible to get hold of unless you want to get hold of an old pod and start tearing it apart. But obviously that means that each time that's done, that's one more pod that's not available, and eventually they will all disappear. So part of the process in designing replacement pods was to come up with a replacement for the protection modules. So if we take an original protection module, and just zoom in a bit. So this is an original Fluke protection module. It's a relatively straightforward circuit. It's really just a series of resistors and a diode array, and it's just interconnected in a way that suits the layout of the pods. The issue in reproducing these initially was just trying to find a source for the IC. So I did find a source for the ICs. They were mainly used in core memory, so as you can imagine they're quite hard to get hold of. You can buy them as new old stock, but they are horrendously expensive. They're £25 each or more, and even people selling them now that where they tore them out of old core memory boards are still selling them at ridiculous prices. And it just means that it became impractical for me to continue to use them in these reproduction protection modules because it made them too expensive. I sell them at pretty much cost price, but even so it was still getting up to the point where I was having to charge £25 or more per module just because of the cost of the IC. So what I've done is I've redesigned the protection module in such a way that I can use readily available parts. So really what I've done is just replace the IC with discrete components. Electronically it is identical, so the new protection module is identical to my first reproduction, which is in turn electrically identical to the original Flukes. So you won't be able to detect any differences between the two. The only real differences are these discrete components are a bit more robust than the ones that were in the original IC, simply because they're more modern. But other than that, you won't be able to detect any difference. So these are now a direct drop-in replacement for the Fluke modules. The benefit, of course, is it means I can reproduce these much more cheaply. So these are less than half the price of the previous one that at the time was making. As I say, I sell them pretty much at cost. My aim is to keep the equipment going, not to become rich doing it. But there's no point in me reproducing sets of boards for the pods if a set of these, because you do need at least 4 of these for any given pod, or usually 5 or more. And there's no point in me reproducing boards if the cost of these protection modules makes that set of reproduction boards just as expensive as trying to find an original pod. But now we're back into the realm of common sense, and it means that I can supply these at a price where it makes sense to make your own set of boards up for any particular pod. If you're interested in these, then drop me a comment and I'll get back to you, but these will shortly be available on eBay and also my own JM website, so that's the JM Precision website. But if you've got any questions about them or want some more details, then please drop me a comment.